Hello students, this is Dr. Deb Watry, and this is just an update and review for clinical practice. I hope you take the time to watch and review, and just a disclaimer, this is the information that I have currently, so hopefully it will help you in getting started and working with your clinical practice and also the EdTPA. This is where we should be right now. You're in that planning stage, knowing your learners, getting to know your students, thinking about planning and the lessons that you're going to be doing for the EdTPA. So the EdTPA basically is 3 tasks. This is task 1. This is task 2, where you're doing the videotaping and collecting assessment of your students' data. Do make sure that you do collect careful data. And this is task 3, the assessment piece. So always keep that in mind, that we're moving in this type of direction. Planning lays the background and the backbone for your whole EdTPA. In your course, in MO2, this is where you will pick up the handbooks. So a lot of you are doing elementary literacy, elementary math. So you want to make sure that you download the handbooks. But also I want to make sure that you take a look at, this is an excellent resource. I can't emphasize that enough, that making good choices will give you a lot of support, a lot of knowledge, a lot of guidelines in doing each part. Each task is divided into 5 rubrics. And so making good choices takes it apart rubric by rubric and tells you these are some things you want to make sure that you do, things that you have in your EdTPA portfolio. I went to, there was a site in MO2, I clicked on it to see what was all there, and of course I can't access it, but you have to register for it, and I'm not sure some of you have registered already for Chalk and Wire, because that's where you will do your portfolio. I am hoping that Professor Johnson, Phil Johnson, will give you more information about getting your authorization key in that, because I can't see what you can see because you will be a candidate. I did go into that Pearson site and found out that Chalk and Wire is the form that you're going to be using. So if you clicked on that Pearson website in your thing, it'll tell you that your education preparation program will use one of these systems. So it is Chalk and Wire, and you do have to get registered in this site in edtpa.com. So I'm hoping that Professor Johnson will give you a little bit more guidelines on how to do that. You do have to get an authorization key because you are using an integrated EdTPA platform system, because here's Chalk and Wire, the one that you use, and you do have to get an authorization key. And I believe there's a fee assigned to that, but we're also in a timeline. So you may need to get registered and get started so that they, I used to be a scorer for EdTPA, that you had to be registered by a certain date and select the date that you're going to be submitting, so that they would know how many evaluators that they would need for each section. So do want to get started on that. Notice that again, this is an integrated platform system provider. It's the Chalk and Wire. Register for EdTPA in this site. And this again I got when I went into the Pearson site that's on your MO2 web page. And then apparently they give directions on that, how to build yours. Sites, every task has templates, and this is how you get to your templates, because I wanted to know how can I help you get your templates and get started. But you have to be registered first to start working on those templates. The handbooks will talk about, this is the information you need for each template, but you have to be registered in Chalk and Wire in order to get those templates. I just want to talk about that date for your submitting. This is the one that Marion has selected for you, that you not November 22nd at 12:03, that you have to submit before this date. You can submit any time before that date, but this is the cutoff date. And when I looked at the submission and reporting dates, this is the reason why Marion has selected this date, so that you get your score here. So if you go after November 21st, you don't get your score till almost the end of December. So you want to make sure that you keep in mind when is the exact submission date. And remember, you're the first week of November, you have the boot camp. If you're able to, at least the first date, that Monday of the boot camp, get to Marion to gain information about submitting by this date, so that a Monday of the boot camp is in particular important to you. So there on our MO2 webpage, I went through and took a look at this. You probably should have already sent out your release form for your students. I went through and I looked at 2 of these videos, part 1 and 2, and so it was very informative. Do take a look at these videos. They're not very long, and I thought informative on the EdTPA. This was just one thing I clicked from Making Good Choices, just to let you know that they will take you through each of the tasks, give you checklists, give you guidelines, and Making Good Choices is an excellent resource for you. We'll answer a lot of your questions as you're developing each task, and this is just one of the pictures that I took off of that resource, Making Good Choices. This again is another item I took out of Making Good Choices. A lot of you are working on sending me lesson plans, and the Marion lesson plan is the EdTPA lesson plan that we used for submitting to EdTPA. So these are some of the guidelines when I was looking at Making Good Choices that tell you that, hey, make sure you take a look at labeling and describing the targets, the activities, lesson title, thoroughly describe what you'll be doing, what the students will be doing. How do you check their understanding at the beginning of the lesson, that's in there for your lesson plan? What opportunities do you provide during your lesson to go back and check? Are the students understanding? Is it thumbs up? Is it, the red cup, green cup type of practice? Something that where you check in your lesson of that informal assessment where the students are. That you provide in your lessons, practice and support activities. They'll be looking for that in each of your lesson. And they'll be looking for pre-written questions to elicit student understanding. So sometimes when you're developing that lesson plan where you talk about the tasks that you're going to be doing, write down some of the questions that you want to ask during that segment. So it's built right into your lesson plan. And then at the end, what type of post-assessment? I see a lot of you are doing exit tickets. A lot of you may have done a post-it. Whatever you do, make sure that that's in your lesson plan. Some work as we're into September and October. I want to make sure that you're very well aware of this, and I'll show you where it is in the MO2 course shell. You need to have a goal development and a semester plan, and that should have been done the first week of student teaching. So when I went back and checked, there were only a number of you, very few, that had the goal statement, and a couple of you had a semester plan. You need to take care of this. Okay, that's something that gets taken care of. You and your cooperating teacher, you develop your goal statement and your cooperating teacher. So if you have done that already but haven't uploaded it, you need to be doing that, because I'm going to be checking that within this week. You should be working on developing the context. It's part of the portfolio system. You should have your philosophy of education, and perhaps you did this for another class. You want to make sure it's polished and ready to go. The parents' permission slips you should have out already, and you should start working on task 1 of the EdTPA. Task 2 for the EdTPA is the actual videotaping and collecting lessons, 3 to 5 connected lessons of a unit, and that starts in kind of the middle of October. So you want to keep these things in mind as you progress in your student teaching. The Marion Clinical Portfolio. So I'm going back now to the MO2 website. Okay, there are 2 portfolios that you do. You don't just do the EdTPA. You have to also submit a Marion portfolio, just so that you know that's a DPI requirement, that each university that has a teacher licensing program, that there is a portfolio system in place for all of their student teachers. So this is the Clinical Practice Portfolio Manual right here. So it's in the course shell. You want to click on that and take a look at it. And just so that you know that the Marian Clinical Practice Portfolio is developed as you work on your EdTPA portfolio. You do it together because some of the pieces for the Marian Practice Portfolio are pieces that you can put into your EdTPA. So it is part of your licensure requirement. Marian cannot allow you to have a license unless you've also completed the Marian Clinical Practice Portfolio. So I laid them side by side so you could kind of see what should you be working on right now. Again, your goals and semester plan, you haven't submitted that yet. You need to be doing that for the Marian portfolio. You're developing a teaching and learning context. I believe Phil had that due way over a week ago, and I haven't gone in and checked on that because I don't grade your Marian portfolio. So you want to make sure that if you haven't submitted your teaching and learning context that you do that, and your philosophy of education. So these are some things that you're going to be working on right now or finishing up. So if you've done some of them already, you can take that off your checklist. What you're doing then for the EdTPA is the pre-planning and teaching context and the task 1 planning. So look at the handbook, look at the making good choices. What are the elements that you need to have for the EdTPA? So in the course shell, MO2, Marian MO2, this is where you download your plan, okay? And this is where you download your goals. So again, we need to go in there and get those updated and sent. They were due the first week of your student teaching. So I'm sorry if you did not get any information. That's not my responsibility, but I do want to make sure that you're keeping up with what's the requirement for the course. I need to take a look at your plan. I also need to take a look at your goals. And this is what kind of alerted me as I started observing the students now this week that I have for clinical practice, that I need to be able to see that before I come to visit you. So again, if you haven't taken care of it, you do want to make sure that as soon as you can to go in, and they're not really, they might take you an hour to complete. So you want to make sure that you do take care of that, and your semester plan is something that you plan with your cooperating teacher in the classroom. If you have questions, obviously Professor Johnson is your go-to person. I'm just but it's an important role that I have. I'm the teacher that comes and observes you and hopefully gives you guidance and supports you and can answer some of your questions. But Professor Johnson is the clinical practice supervisor, and he does answer the questions. I know he is setting up, I saw his email, setting up a Zoom conference with you, and part of it will be telling you about getting registered for your EdTPA and some initial things that you need to take care of. So do not miss that scheduled conference that he will have in Zoom so that you'll be able to, and it's an interactive conference so you can ask questions as he's presenting information in that. So I've started observing you and I'm excited. I know I don't want you to be overstressed about me coming to see you, but I am excited about you, seeing you in the classroom, seeing your lesson plans, and seeing how you're progressing as a student teacher. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. And please know that I'm looking at all of you as becoming those good and great teachers, because when I'm in the classroom, I want to see how you are bringing out the best in your students. So thanks for listening, and I hope all is going well with you.